it's great to welcome you at our last staff assembly, staff meeting of the year. So we say, Molweni, goeiemiddag, baie welkom. We also say thank you to staff who will participate from our other campuses electronically. At the specific assembly, we will listen to the rector. He will give a presentation on the university's performance during this year. And we'll also hear from Prof. Stan du Plessis, our COO, about the budget for 2024. Colleague Japie Kotze of HR will give an update regarding staff benefits for 2024. And we will afterwards have some time for questions and answers. We did receive a few questions, and especially the presentations of colleague Stan and colleague Japie will already deal with some of those questions. We encourage staff who are engaged electronically at the various campuses. They can still email questions that we will attend to, and you know the address. The email address is ecoms@sun.ac.za. Questions that we cannot deal with today, as usual, we afterwards send a communication that addresses those questions. Colleagues, we will observe a moment of silence. Doesn't want to move on. Let me just check. I'll just move back. Can our technical colleagues perhaps just help me here? Please. Hello. point of telling the rector and the presenters about the Northern Cape. You know, if moments like this occur, then they would say, no, that's good, don't talk pampierlik, talk out of the heart. We were close to that, but we will talk pampierlik and out of the heart. Colleagues, at this point we normally observe a moment of silence. It's the end of the year. During the past year, students passed on, staff passed on, and we want to remember them. Remember in hyphenated fashion, remember, again a member, always a member. We also want to express empathy with those colleagues amongst us who lost loved ones. So kom ons word vir 'n oomblik stil. Thank you. I now invite our rector to address us.
So thank you very much, Prof. Nico, and good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to this last staff assembly of the year. I must say, I was not going to attempt what our technical colleague did by attempting a leap up the stage here. That was very impressive, but it did high risk move. This presentation is largely going to follow the one that I presented to Council earlier this week. And the theme for 2023 could be summed up as making headway despite strong headwinds. And I think it really captures the 2023 academic year rather aptly. So let me focus first on making headway. So a number of important bullet points there. And in line with our vision as Africa's premier research university, we achieved notable milestones this year. And I think including, number one there, the launch of the very, very impressive state-of-the-art Biomedical Research Institute earlier this year, followed by our appointment as the lead institution for 4 Africa-Europe clusters of research excellence through a purposeful initiative by the Alliance of African Research Intensive Universities in Africa, ARUA, and the European Guild of Universities. Then also continuing through the work of our School for Data Science and Computational Thinking and the School for Climate Studies, we demonstrated how this kind of multidisciplinary research can really accelerate the delivery of scientific solutions to societal challenges. And the School for Climate Studies has solidified its presence on the global stage and continues to actively contribute to climate conferences, initiatives such as COP27 last year in Cairo and more recently COP28, and through its interaction with the Global Alliance of Universities on Climate, or GAUC. And through the work of our individual faculties, they undertake a vast number of intercontinental research projects. And we heard this morning as well at the Rectorate a record number of articles in journals, more than 3,055, and also in this year, 1,500 research contracts that have been signed this year. So a very significant advance on the research front. Our joint doctoral degree programs with world-renowned universities continue to expand, most recently with the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. So what this has resulted in, and continue to have resulted in this past year, is that collaboration and engagement in multidisciplinary research networks has now really become part of our institutional ethos. Just a couple of examples of this is the wonderful publication that you can also access online, Research for Impact at the top there, and a presentation that Professor Guy Midgley, who is our school director, School for Climate Studies director, and there was a Stellenbosch University team that discussed equitable partnerships, north-south partnerships at the South African Embassy in Brussels as part of our Center of Research Excellence that I referred to, the Africa-Europe one, on climate change adaptation and mitigation. And two further great examples of awards and that we achieved more recently is the NITHEX Award. So NITHEX is the National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, and this was awarded to Stellenbosch University and its consortium partners, but we will host this consortium, and you can see the different disciplines that are represented in this consortium. On the right there, the scientific themes that include theoretical physics, mathematics, astronomy and astrophysics, statistics, data science, quantitative finance, bioinformatics and quantitative biology, earth systems modeling, and also climate change modeling. And if that wasn't enough, we recently got the news that the DSI NRF National Institute for the Preparedness and Prevention of Pandemics, that Stellenbosch University is part of this group, and it's a 180 million rand award over 3 years. So it's an inclusive, multi-sectoral and interdisciplinary research institute. And just interestingly, just on our doorstep, we got an award from DSI, seed funding for 5 million for the PAL Africa Underground Laboratory, or PAL. And this will be constructed inside the Huguenot Tunnel. And this will be the only underground laboratory in Africa, and only the second one in the Southern Hemisphere. And the initiative is led by the Department of Physics with Professor Richard Newman and Professor Sean Weingaard. And all this in terms of, when we look at research, I thought was a lovely, lovely event that Professor Sibu Moyo as DVC for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Studies that her RC hosted on the 30th of October, where our researchers and scholars were recognized and valorized for their contribution. And this is a great evening of excellence awards and celebration of research with impact at Stellenbosch University. I'm very pleased to also report that our vaunted African Doctoral Academy is back in business, and back in business in person and not only virtually. And this is a significant contribution to science in Africa. And there's both a spring school and also early in September and in October for 250 participants from the African continent. So that's research and research output. In terms of philanthropy and fundraising, we've also had a very good year thus far. To the end of October, raising almost 300 million rand in philanthropic donations to our university in support of our strategic objectives. Most of this would go for bursaries, it would go for research chairs, and then some of it would also go for infrastructure. But so that we exceeded donations received in the year-to-year end by almost 50 million rand. So I think kudos really to Karen Bruns and her team from Development and Alumni Relations. And importantly, I also keep a close eye on the cost of fundraising. And the cost of fundraising in this case is about 9 cents per every rand raised. And that really compares very favorably to the industry norm that's around about 22 cents per every rand raised. So we're careful about how we raise funds and how we apply these funds. The other exciting venture is that we continue to launch more Marty alumni chapters. We now have 39 worldwide. We launched number 38 in Harare a month or so ago with 120 very enthusiastic attendees. We have an average annually about 750 Zimbabwean students, and we provide significant philanthropic funding for them as well. And then the following evening, we launched chapter 39 in Nairobi, and that was attended by about 70 Kenyan alumni from Stellenbosch University. And interestingly, many of them who are employed in higher education in Kenya, either at the University of Nairobi or Strathmore University or at other colleges there. So, and there was also an event held in Kigali in Rwanda. So there's a Rwandan Mati alumni chapter as well. But so we have 39 chapters worldwide. And I think through the work of development and alumni relations, this is really, it's been a significant event that you may be aware of, is that homecoming, the annual homecoming event, has now become really a very fixed and an integrated part of our calendar. It's the second weekend of September every year. So this has seen significant growth from 2022. So we now have we had more than 3,000 alumni attendees coming to Stellenbosch. It featured 47 events, so class reunions, residence reunions, business breakfast, the Martiland concert, etc. So it's now really becoming a celebrated annual event, and all the faculties and residences are participating in this event. A lovely event was the 2023 Dell Young Leaders Cohort. So this is from support by the Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. So 213 students were selected for the 2023 Dell Young Leaders Cohort. And this brings it to a total now of 662 since 2020. And this cohort of 213 students is the largest cohort onboarded at any Dell Young Leaders University partner in South Africa to date. So we're a big player in this. The other players would be University of Pretoria and UCT, but this is by far the largest cohort onboarded. So this group would include students from 6 of our faculties: agri-sciences, economic management sciences, education, engineering, medicine and health sciences, and also science. So the year was also remarkable for that our botanical garden celebrated its 100 years, its centenary, and Woordfeest 2023 was also an all-round success. And our marketing communication team, and we should also be very proud of that they scooped a notable 31 awards at the annual Marketing Advancement and Communication in Education, or MACE, Excellence Awards, including the coveted Severus SURF Award for consistent excellence for the highest success ratio of all entering institutions. And I have to mention entries from Corporate Communication and Marketing Division, the Development and Alumni Relations, Student Recruitment, the Library, and the Faculty of Medicine and Health Sciences were among those acknowledged for their outstanding performance. So we did really well in these MACE Awards. What about next year? So for next year, as you can see on that graph to the right there, the bar graph, which shows the total number of applicants, 88,000 applicants for undergraduates. On the pie chart, you see that 66% of those were unsuccessful already, but we've got significant increase in the number of applications for 2024, which shows that your institution is a sought-after institution. Also an increase in the number of postgraduate applications to more than 20,000. And this has resulted in in the number of offers that were extended to our undergraduate students. As you can see in the middle there, 13,610 offers were extended and also accepted. And the registrar tells us that this would translate into around about a 6,000, slightly north of 6,000 number of students, of first-year students who will arrive on our campus next year. So let me quickly skip over this one, because I know you're not interested in that. But I do wanted to say that next week is a big week for us. As it traditionally is in December. It's hot. We hope that the air conditioning will be working in the Kutzenberg Center. The registrar tells me that there's a new setup there that's very exciting. The band is going to be at the top, is that right? We'll have the stage at the bottom in the Kutzenberg Center. We'll have lots of marimba music playing there. But that there will be 5,779 total graduates, 3,221 undergraduates, postgraduates 2,558, and with the undergraduate number is the second highest over the past 10 years, and of course many more to follow in the March graduations as well. But this is all due to your hard work, and I really want to thank you for that and for the achievements of your institution this year. As I said, it's making headway despite strong headwinds. And I need to go back to this slide because on Monday, this past Monday, Council approved the budget for 2024, and some of the salient points in the budget would be the increase in student fees of 6%, undergraduate, postgraduate 8%, student accommodation 8%, and a staff salary increase of 4%. But this is, can I get some applause for that?
There's a lot of excitement out there.
Yes. So, but I really want to thank you all for your contribution, and Prof. Stan is going to speak to the budget and also these headwinds that I've referred to in terms of NSFAS, in terms of the general economic climate, the notice we got from Treasury, load shedding, all these other joys that we've experienced. Prof. Stan, over to you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Director, thank you very much, and I'll leave that slide there, and then I'll talk to you, colleagues. Sorry? No, I don't need that. Colleagues, at the previous staff meeting, I gave an explanation of how we construct the budget. You'll recall I used those arrows, and I started with the 5 income streams of the university. We receive income from government in the form of subsidy. We levy student fees. Those two together fund what we call the main budget of the university. Then we collect from students fees for accommodation in our halls of residence, and that's a ring-fenced budget, and we call that one the accommodation budget. And then we've got 3 further income streams. We've got a large income stream that's based on research contracts. We call that the 3rd income stream. We have an income stream that is due to philanthropic donations. That's the 4th income stream. And then we have some commercial income, and we call that one the 5th income stream. If we add 3, 4, and 5, contracts, donations, and commercial income to the first 2 income streams, and we add the accommodation budget, then we get what we call the integrated budget. The reason I bother you with all of these budgets is we have a concentric circle of obligations in that we have to balance all of these budgets in total, but also individually. So we have to have a ring-fenced accommodation budget that balances. We are obliged to balance the subsidized main budget in its own terms, and then from a perspective of responsible financial management, we also have to balance the university's total integrated budget. And the reason we have to balance these budgets is not just because that's required by sensible regulation, it is required by the more compelling mandate of responsible financial management. And we don't just balance them in 1 year, we balance them over a planning horizon. We need to ensure, colleagues, that we have a university that can thrive with the use of our resources, not just next year, but in the years to come. That is an important discipline that we've embedded in our financial management, and that's the right discipline to have. The rector sometimes speaks about our university as an institution for the ages. We are not trying to be just here next year. We want to be here in 5 years' time, and we want to be here in 50 years' time because of the kind of important impact that a public university like ours makes on society. And we plan for that. We are deliberately already planning for what we are going to do in 50 years' time. But the budget that was approved by Council on Monday is a 6-year budget. It's for next year and the subsequent 5 years. It is also a very consultative process. The university is a public institution, and we follow a consultative process to propose a budget ultimately that Council has to approve. And I say that because we had a question that was sent to us ahead of time as to how did we come to these parameters that you see on the screen, and the answer to that is in a very consultative process. So that means multiple rounds of consultation with deans. So if you're in the faculties, you are represented in those discussions by your deans. If you are in the support services, either your senior director or your chief director is in the university's general management meeting, and that's where we consult the rest of the senior management of the university. If you're a student leaders sit on our student fees committee, and they have direct participation in and agreed to our proposed adjustments for student fees. So staff at all levels and students are represented in this decision-making structure, and that's how we ultimately propose a budget. And bear in mind that the council that takes the decision ultimately is also composed by representatives of all of these communities. Student leadership, non-academic staff, academic staff, representatives of Senate, representatives of our donors, representatives of the convocation, representatives of local government and community. So we have what we call a stakeholder board, and that stakeholder board is also looking out for your interests when they ultimately make these decisions about the budget. So much for the background. Let me say something about the particular context and then these numbers. So at the last staff meeting, I already mentioned to you that we face in South African higher education very severe financial difficulties this year. And these financial difficulties will not go away in the foreseeable future. And colleagues, you've already seen that in the news as well. Those difficulties are tied to the more general financial difficulties of our government. So our government, as you know, is under very severe financial strain, and government is the single biggest funder of our university. And as a consequence, we and the other 25 public universities in the country will face very severe financial difficulties. Our subsidy for this year was cut in October. So let me just make sure that you hear that correctly. I'm not saying the subsidy for next year that we forecasted was reduced. It's the actual subsidy that was committed to us at the end of last year was reduced in October this year. Then we were told that the subsidy for next year is going to be lower than the subsidy that we received for this year in nominal rand terms. So bear in mind, costs go up. We have to pay our staff more. All our costs on the operational side of the university go up. But our main funder is going to give us less in rand terms next year than this year. Colleagues, that is a phenomenally big risk for the university, given both the size of the subsidy within our budget and the impact that nominal and real stagnation in government subsidy has on the projected income of the university. Colleagues in senior management here and online will know that I explained the impact to you in concrete terms earlier this year when I said that the first projection of our main budget for next year yielded a deficit of 185 million rand. And I also told you that we have projections over a 6-year horizon, and the projected cumulative deficit over 6 years was 1.4 billion rand. Colleagues, these are astonishingly large numbers. And those numbers are comparable in all the other universities in the country. When they do the same exercise, they find similar outcomes. So we had a real difficulty, and I want to say that I'm very grateful for the collaboration that I received from the entire senior management of the university. Because when I put this problem in front of senior management and I asked for your assistance to help us solve this through prioritizing internal expenditure, through deciding where can we do less next year, because we are facing 185 million rand deficit next year and a very substantial cumulative deficit over the planning horizon, I got collaboration across the entire university. And the budget that we tabled to council on Monday is a balanced budget next year and over the planning horizon. But that is an immediate response to the difficulty that we face. And we will have to work very hard in the years to come to make sure that we embed a culture of unlocking efficiency and savings within the university. That's on the cost side. And also, colleagues, I invite you to help us think creatively about expanding our income as well. You cannot solve this kind of financial difficulty only by reducing costs. We must, of course, reduce costs, and we must find cost-cutting opportunities where they exist, but we will also have to grow our income, and we cannot count on the government subsidy to do that for us. You have seen the reflections on government's finances in the media. That is unlikely to improve over our planning horizon. So our need for additional income will have to be found beyond government subsidy, and that's where I ask you to think creatively with me and with your leadership in all the areas of the university. We have to make an adjustment for student fees on an annual basis, and like I said, we consult this with our student leadership, and that needs to reflect the value proposition that we give our students. So it is the total proposition that we give our undergraduate and postgraduate students, and of course also within the realism of the budget, which started off with this massive deficit projected for next year. And it is in that discussion that we proposed a 6% adjustment for undergraduate fees and 8% on average for postgraduate fees. That's not literally the case for every postgraduate program. There are some exceptions requested by faculties. Of course, we also look at the market. We look at where comparable programs are priced by other universities that compete with us, because we want to make sure that we do not price these programs out of the market. And it's a lengthy and careful process, and we are sure that these adjustments are realistic within the current higher education market in South Africa. On the student accommodation side, I emphasized already that the budget for student accommodation has to be ring-fenced and balanced. It is a crucial expectation that government has of us, that we run our housing budget in this manner, and we succeed in that. And we have to run our housing budget in such a way that we can responsibly give the kind of services that are demanded by our students. And that is, of course, always evolving as well. Maintaining old residences like ours, though, is typically an expensive exercise. So it typically runs a little bit ahead of consumer inflation, and that's why the housing adjustment is typically a percentage or two above the adjustment for undergraduate student fees. And that's how we get to the 8%. And let me just emphasize that that is not just a Stellenbosch story. It is in fact a sectoral story. When the Minister of Higher Education advises student fee adjustments across the sector, typically there is a 2 percentage point gap between the fee adjustment and the accommodation adjustment. So that is a sectoral reality. Now I mentioned the Minister and advice from the Minister. So we sometimes get advice from the Minister at about this time of the year in what he calls the social compact for student fees. That is a liberal use of the word. There is no real social compact, but I'm going to call that an indicative statement by the Minister of what he would like to see. But this year we have received nothing from the Minister. So there is no indicative statement that we could also factor into our planning. And in fact, the responsibility in the Higher Education Act is very clear that it lies with the council of every university to make these decisions. And that's why our council was free to make this decision on Monday. But the ratio between adjustments of fees and accommodation budget is the kind of ratio that the minister would typically use. And that then brings me to the adjustment on salaries. That's the average adjustment for staff. So all staff members will receive a 4% increase in your salary, and the basic remuneration level at every post level will go up by 4%. Now, this is, of course, a difficult decision. Currently, inflation is beyond 4%, and the projected inflation next year by our colleagues at the Bureau for Economic Research is 4.7%. And we don't like to adjust salaries by less than the inflation rate for understandable reasons, colleagues, because the inflation rate is a measure of the increase in the cost of living, and we don't want you to farm backwards with the cost of living scope of your salary. My colleague Japie Kotze is going to give you further relevant information about that in the next presentation, though, because your take-home pay is not the only relevant consideration when you think of cost of living. An important part are the benefits that we pay you in addition to your take-home pay, and that includes, for example, the life care benefits, your various forms of insurance, medical insurance, and so on. And what you're going to see in Japie's presentation is the important extent to which these costs have come down in real terms. In other words, those subtractions from your salary will, in rand terms, go down next year, and quite sharply on a number of those benefits, because those were pushed up during the pandemic. Remember, the insurance industry, and these are one-year contracts, pushed those contracts up very sharply during COVID, and those contracts are now coming down and normalizing, and you will feel that in your pocket on those adjustments, but Japie will give you the exact details about that. The labour market in South Africa is in real difficulty. You have seen the news yesterday that our economy shrank in the third quarter of this year. Unemployment is extremely high, and in the labour market at this time of year we are negotiating wages for next year, and colleagues, a 4% adjustment is not going to be a low number for a large institution for next year. We have not yet seen the decisions by most universities in the country. There is some speculation about them, but we benchmark very clearly. We use the REM channel, which is a survey of salaries across both higher education and the rest of the economy, to make sure that our salaries do not fall behind. And the reality is, colleagues, and this I think is a surprising reality for some of us who've been in higher education for a long time, in the course of the last 20 years, salaries in higher education have risen above the rest of the economy at every post level. That didn't used to be the case, certainly wasn't the case 20 years ago. But salaries in higher education have risen faster than salaries in the rest of the economy, and at every post level, salaries in higher education in South Africa is substantially above the median for the rest of the economy. And that includes our own salaries. Now, we benchmark both against the economy and against other universities to ensure that we have realistic salaries. But we also give you the commitment, colleagues, that we want to pay you a realistic salary over the medium term. We don't want to take a decision in 1 year that we have to reverse next year with an inadequate adjustment next year, or even with adjustments to the staff complement next year. So we take a very responsible approach to adjusting salaries so that we can have reasonable adjustments on an annual basis. And if you take a 5 and a 10-year perspective, you will see that we have always, over the medium term, exceeded inflation in our salary adjustments. So that is the commitment that you can get from us, is we will not in the medium term fall behind inflation. Next year, this adjustment will be below inflation. You're going to gain from the life care benefits, but you also get the commitment that the university is being managed in such a way that our budget will balance this year and over the planning horizon, so that we will not have to take other disruptive decisions with respect to staff over the course of our planning horizon. That is important, colleagues, because when we think of retaining staff, the perspective is not ever just a one-year horizon. We want to offer you a career at Stellenbosch University, and we want you to be able to plan that you'll have a good career here, not just next year, but over the planning horizon, and indeed beyond the planning horizon, because every year we extend that planning horizon by 6 years. So I've said a lot about that. Of course, we can deal with questions about that as well. And let me now summarize. The total integrated budget for next year is going to be 7.2 billion rand. So we are a large institution, colleagues, from a financial perspective. Within that, the main budget that I spoke about is 57%. State subsidy is 1/2 of the income of the main budget, and the other half is from student fees, or almost a half is from student fees. Now, actually, state subsidy is 49.5% of the main budget. And I mention that 0.5 because it is the first time in the history of university that state subsidy is less than a half of the income of the main budget. So for a public university, in our entire history, subsidy has never been less than a half of the main budget. And I expect, unfortunately, colleagues, that subsidy proportion will simply decline in the foreseeable future. That is the reality that we have to manage from a financial perspective, and it's not an easy problem to manage. I'm very grateful that our third income stream is projected to grow strongly next year. We had a real setback in third income stream activities, and for very understandable reasons during the pandemic, and I'm very happy to see that activity is picking up sharply, and of course we want to support that. That is not just from a financial perspective in the first instance, because third stream activity reflects a rising research portfolio for the university. So I'm going to stop there. Chair, perhaps we should give Japie a chance first and then deal with questions later on. Thank you.
Good afternoon, staff, colleagues. Thank you, Mohammed, for letting us speak here. I think there's a lot of benefits that we need to get over, and not everybody is reading the memos, the communication that we sent out. So just please give me 5 minutes here, and I'm enlightened you a bit. The first thing I just want to say, I want to thank you all. There was over 1,100 responses to our staff survey earlier this year, and some of the narratives that we received we could use and factor into the benefits that we invest for next year. There is some narratives that we are still looking to see what we can do, but give us time and we will also work on that. Some of the points are addressed in the 2024 benefits. The first one I just want to highlight is the SURF, the Provident Fund. As usual, we will bump everybody up with 2.5% if they're still below the 15% contribution. We had a question also earlier yesterday about the return that SURF is giving, and the question was, why are we giving such low returns or even losing funds there? And I would urge you, if you think that you are getting a low return or losing funds on SURF, please come and see me. SURF is giving the last 10 years, giving more than 8-9% increase. The two absolute portfolios are even giving us close to 10%, and the conservative portfolio is giving us in the region of 8% also there. So we're quite fortunate with a trustees that is putting really hard work into succeeding that and make sure that the fund is doing well at no cost. They're doing this for free, and we appreciate that. Thank you very much for some of the trustees that's sitting here. The spouse and child, the next one, the benefit there. There is no increase in the premiums there, but please, we're also busy from HR side to contact everybody that we think doesn't have a qualifying spouse or a qualifying child, because then they can opt out of this benefit. It is an awesome benefit. It is the old pension that we can still generate if we would die in service. But if you don't have a qualifying spouse or child, please come and see our office, contact us, because there's an option to opt out of this benefit. The next one is the group life. There's some good saving there, 22% decrease in the premium. It is really great to come back to the pre-COVID premiums that we had. And then also what we brought into this year, I think you remember we had the option of we can go to 3 times. The normal was always 5 times cover that we had. And for 2023, we had the option also to come down to 3 times cover. And as part of the survey also, we allowed people now to go down to 1 times cover. For those staff that doesn't have any immediate family or single that don't need this big 5 times cover when they would die. So that's an option, and that's a good option if you want to save some funds there. Please have a look or contact us also. The insurer would act if we can get this feedback in the first 3 months of next year. So please, if you want to come down to the 1 times cover or the 3 times cover, please come and see us or contact us via email. And also I must highlight, we are moving over to Old Mutual. We were on Sanlam last year with some good savings there. We ride the wave, and now we're even riding a bigger wave at Old Mutual to get some more savings there. Disability, I'm fortunate. I want to say I'm personally unfortunate we didn't have any increase in this benefit, the cost of this, because we've got a huge number of disability cases applying, and also in the market. So this premium in the market is just going up for over the last few years. So we're fortunate we didn't have any increase there. The next one, spouse insurance there, also a good decrease of 22%. The last one, funeral, also back. I think you remember we increased the benefit from 20 to 30,000 rand for the beginning of this year. So we're keeping the 30,000, but we can reduce the premiums now with 18% again also. So that's also some good saving there. Then I'm going over to the healthcare benefits. This is not always this where we can negotiate. The first one is something that the Directorate approved after suggestions from the survey also. Employees on post level 10 and 9 will always they had to belong to the medical aid, Discovery or MediHelp, or if they're on a spouse or part-time, they didn't have to be on Discovery or MediHelp. But what we've seen now is the cost of medical aid for those post levels are almost 15 to 20% of their cost to company. It's just getting so expensive. So the Directorate approved that we can relinquish those people on post level 10 to 9, but only on one condition. They must join the Health for Me, the low-cost medical insurance that we've got. We are sending out communications the next week about that, and will be specifically addressed to the post levels 9 and 10. So please be on the lookout for that. Then you can see also the various increases, Discovery and MediHelp ranges from 3% with some reduction in savings, but also up to 19% in some of the benefits. It is a huge, but we don't have any negotiating power. We are paying the same as anybody on the street that will pay for Discovery or MediHelp, but we've got some preferential treatment. We have access to their management. If there's cases that we need to address, we can do that through our healthcare consultants, Alex Forbes. So I want to advise you, speak to Alex Forbes, Marie-Louise, Rian, if you are looking at a possible reduction in a medical plan or have to go up due to some illness, speak to them and they can advise you, do some planning, what is the best plan that can work for you in your specific circumstances. The gap cover, after a few years of really low increases, we've got a 7.5% increase there, and also for the Health for Me, the previous years we had increases of 2 to 3%, and this year was the first year that they increased with such an, for me, high increase, 7.4%, but it's an unbelievable product. For those of you that's thinking of joining it, going over from a medical aid to Health for Me, this is an awesome product, really. From the start that we implemented this in 2008, we're just getting very good feedback. Just 2 points also then. All of these benefits are on the package structuring, on the Oracle software, where you can go and play around. If you want to reduce your benefit of the group life maybe to 1, maybe choose another medical aid plan, you can go and play with on the Oracle software. And then also just the last point there, the two-part system, it's changing every week after legislation and committees and ministerial committees. So at the moment it looks like the two-part, there's a lot of interest from staff that we're receiving. The two-part is looking to be implemented from 1 September now. But please, as new information is coming through, we put it on the SURF website. So please go and look on the SURF website. There's a special tab for the two-part system there. Please go and have a look if there's any questions there also. But feel free, send your questions to Sunny HR. We will try and address that as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Japie. Much appreciated. So you had a presentation from my side on some of the achievements of the university this year. And then you had Prof. Stan speaking on some of the financial challenges, and then an explanation of some of the benefits that we can offer and that we are offering in 2024. But I think as Prof. Stan said, the budget that was approved by Council last Monday, I would characterize this is a responsible budget, and it's a long-term budget for the next 6 years, as he said. But the other important point that he made is that Stellenbosch University is an institution for the ages. It's an institution for the ages. Universities are institutions that have survived for more than 1,000 years. So yesterday I attended the opening of 2 new buildings or departments at the Faculty of Engineering, the Department of Mechanical and Mechatronic Engineering, and also Industrial Engineering. And I started talking to a support staff member who told me that she has now been working for the university for 43 years. She started at the age of 20 as a support staff member, first in the Faculty of Agricultural Sciences. So 43 years. The university celebrated its centenary in 2018. And then at the last Senate meeting, we took leave. We granted emeritus status to Professor Anton van Niekerk from philosophy and Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. So he's retiring at the end of this year, and he started at this university as a first-year student, I think it was in 1973. And he was appointed as a lecturer in 1981 or so, and as a professor in 1989. So he was our last surviving Senate member from the 80s. And the point of this is, these are examples of people who've served this institution for decades, and this is an institution for the ages, and this is why there's such an important responsibility that we continue to serve this country and this institution for the ages. So we've received a number of questions, and I think Stan has dealt with a good number of those. Prof. Nico also urged me to encourage staff to complete the Staff Health and Wellbeing Climate and Culture Survey. Gone. Please complete that as soon as possible. The one question that I think the question that were submitted, questions with regard to consultation processes, also the university benchmarks, they were addressed, and also the retirement fund that's actually showing very, very good returns, in fact. But there is a specific question, and certainly this is an issue that Council spent quite a while talking about as well on Monday, is what about NSFAS and the challenges to NSFAS, and I think we've just heard virtually in the last couple of hours, is that there is going to be a significant cut as well from Treasury to the NSFAS budget. So, Stan, I'm going to hand that one over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, we heard some disruptive news just now. Apparently there is going to be a more than 13 billion rand cut in the NSFAS budget. We don't know exactly how the Department of Higher Education and Training is going to handle that, and we don't know how NSFAS is going to handle that. So there's a lot of uncertainty around. What we do is to make it very clear that that we wish to support our students, and on Monday our council approved a mechanism by which we will provide security for NSFAS students who have accumulated debt which they did not otherwise foresee that they would accumulate. Because you'll recall, colleagues, that NSFAS is actually a bursary that's meant, or that was conceived at the end of 2017, to be an all-inclusive bursary. Now, with these budget cuts, it turns out the bursary is no longer all-inclusive. So some of our NSFAS students have outstanding debt, and that could either prevent them from being able to graduate, or it could prevent them from registering next year, depending on where they are in their programs. What we've done is to ask Council that we can make security available, in other words, financial collateral available, so that these students get highly preferential loans from commercial banks on terms which a NSFAS student would never be able to get on their own. And so Council has made very substantial funding available to that end, so that our students are not prevented from graduating and are not prevented from registering next year. Of course, we're also very active in the sector, because what we've now done with this mechanism by Council is a short-run solution. It's just a solution to get us through the end of this year and the beginning of next year. But there also needs to be a sectoral response here. We need to conceive of a sustainable version of NSFAS, and indeed of support for the missing middle students. And that has not been articulated yet. So we are buying time to manage the short-run risks, and then we are active participants at various levels in the sector, so that in the course of next year we can fundamentally reform these mechanisms, which we believe currently are not serving the interests of students who are most vulnerable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Stan. Any questions? Yes. If we can get a mic, and just if you can state your name and affiliation.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
No, can you just switch on the mic?
Yeah. The green light is on, but here we go.
Testing. Okay. Thank you very much for taking my question. I'm Peter Martins from the Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival. I'm very concerned about the new finance system in terms of payments and paying artists from overseas. We currently sit with about 30 artists from overseas that have still to receive their money, and about 30 service providers. So about 60 payments are outstanding. We're in breach of contract. The contract requires that they are paid within 30 days. The Stellenbosch International Chamber Music Festival finished on the 10th of July. And I'm bearing the brunt of this because I'm getting phoned from all corners of the globe and emails written about, where's my money, why am I not paid, I'm going to take you to court. And I'm saying to them, we're doing our best, it's a new system. So I'm very concerned. The system seems not to work well for our particular environment. Maybe it works well for the university as a whole, but I know that when you pay international payments, for example, it's basically for whoever sits in the finance department and handles that payment twice the amount of work as it cost them when we were on terror term. So I'm very concerned about that. We're not going to get the payments through before Christmas, and I'm not going to be able to take leave until these people are paid. So I would like to use this platform to express my concern and ask for some help.
Thanks, Peter, and that's actually why I kept Stan on the stage. So the university has embarked on two large change management systems, namely SunFin, which is our financial system, and SunStudent. And the registrar is so excited about SunStudent and its implementation from next year that she would actually like to jump on the stage. But Stan, if we can talk about SunFin.
Thank you, Chair. Peter, I'm sorry about the problems that you've experienced. I can't solve the problem from the stage, but can I ask you to speak to me directly afterwards so that I can put you in contact with the correct colleagues in the finance division so that we can sort those out. It is a solvable problem, and we should be able to solve it, and we should be able to solve it before Christmas as well.
Now that's a promise if I ever heard one. Okay. So there's a question at the back there.
Hi, I'm Ashrita, also from the Music Department. I don't just think that's just the international payments. I think the whole cycle in a whole is a complete mess. Excuse I'm just really frustrated and anxious, and like Peter said, we must go on holiday, but we can't because there's so many outstanding payments and backlogs and vendor applications and everything that's saying. So I don't know that, I think most of our colleagues feel the same. We are just very anxious, and I don't know what else, what word I must still use. Like, it's a terrible system.
So, yeah. So that's a comment. But I think that as I said, two big change systems. But I think this morning we had a rectorate reflection on 2023, and Prof. Stan actually used a very nice description of such a big cloud-based Oracle system in terms of that the system is technically certainly very good, and it's technically very, but there's a dissonance between whether it's a system error and whether it's user error. And wait, relax. I'm not denying at all immense frustration as we're getting used to a new system. But it's in terms of also in how we get used to these systems and how we train people for, and I think that is in communication, training, and making all that available. I don't know if you want to add anything more, Stan. Oh, okay, there's one question, one more question here yeah, please, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Nakim Mufwena from the CAF. Before I ask my question, I'm going to defend you even if you pay an extra cent. Yes, guys, I must be honest, I work very less on the system. My colleague works on it. I hear his percentage every now and then. Let's be honest, change is not easy. We're going through a teasing program, and those of you who have kids, like me, who are very active in raising kids, let me finish. It's not going to help you how. Let's go through the process. It's not easy, there'll be frustration. But if we give positive feedback and let's not stop shouting and howling, then let's work together. I'm not saying it's easy. Let's work together and give positive feedback to get a positive solution. Because we're not going to go back to the old system, unfortunately. So let's move forward with what we have and hope for the best. Because we're not going back. I'm done then how
I can't actually give you a better example of our slogan, forward together.
Thank you, and you'll win by 1 point. By the way, while we're still talking about budget and money, out of interest, because load shedding is a problem to the whole country. How much does load shedding cost Stellenbosch University in terms of having to deal with the generator and buying diesel? Out of interest. Thank you.
Sure. It's a good question. Of course, it depends on the level. So it's a moving target, but we are budgeting for next year. We foresee at least 70 million rand for next year. So that is, sorry? 2017. Well, this year we spent at least as much as that. Now, we don't want to keep spending 70 million rand a year. So we are installing a considerable amount of solar panels across this campus as well as the Tygerberg campus. At the moment, we have we have currently 750 kilowatt peak of solar panels. We are in the process of installing 4,000. Currently under tender is about 1,000, and then more will follow in the beginning of next year. And this will lead us to bring down the amount that we need to take from from our diesel generators. So it is a slow process, but we are investing heavily in solar so that we don't have to keep paying these diesel bills. Apart from it being bad for the environment, it obviously is a massive cost on the budget.
So thank you very much, colleagues, and I appreciate your participation. You came today, but a heartfelt note of appreciation from me and also the leadership team for everything that you do for this institution. It's much, much appreciated, and I hope you have a restful time and that at least you have at least more information as to the institution and what we also attempt to do. So thank you very much.